Welcome to Constructive Conversations, Building Canada's Stories. I'm your host, George Afflin. Thanks for joining me as we dig into the foundations of Canada's construction industry, learning from leaders and pioneers in the business. Today, I'm joined by Nicki Ackerman, who's the marketing manager with Avana, a real estate enterprise that develops purpose-built, high-quality rental homes in Saskatchewan and Alberta. Let's start the conversation now. Nicki, thanks so much for taking your time today to be a part of Constructive Conversations. I want to learn more about Avana and the journey it's taken in the past 7 years. Can you tell me, a bit more about that process, that journey?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me today. So Avana is a Saskatchewan-based real estate development and property management company. We are female-led and family-owned, which we believe is what makes us so special. We have those family-owned roots, and we're all born and raised in Saskatchewan, so we have strong prairie roots here, and we believe in leading with a purpose that's tied to our values. So we strongly believe that that's what's led our company to the success that we're seeing today.
Can you talk a bit about the landscape in Saskatchewan and in your target market when it comes to what you do, specifically development, management, and rental? Tell me a bit about that.
Absolutely. So I guess what I can start with is a lot of people don't know this, but Saskatchewan is one of the provinces with the highest rates of domestic abuse. It's actually double the national average. And knowing that, we always live by the motto that we do what is right, not what is easy. And knowing those statistics, we just, again, tie it to our values and know that that is not okay. And we need to do something to help with that. So we shifted our business and building model to building affordable homes in Saskatchewan and then spanning across the country as well, because the need is not only in Saskatchewan, it is Canadian-wide. And then, of course, with COVID, it has shone a spotlight on these situations. And it's actually been reported that we're seeing an uptick in domestic violence of upwards between 30 to 62%, which is absolutely horrendous. And having safe and attainable affordable homes to families that are fleeing domestic violence situations is critical. And knowing that we have taken a strong stance to support the community organizations that help women and children in our communities fleeing these situations, and that has really built our focus for now. So we're hoping that we can replicate this exact model that we've done in Saskatchewan in the other provinces as well.
That's amazing. I mean, obviously, I'm based in Vancouver, and we have the same challenges here, and dealing with that issue and finding a way where the development community can be involved and provide the kinds of housing. I notice also, though, you have quite a diverse range you have students and you have seniors you're building in all sorts of different, including the social housing that you're describing there and the family housing. How do you actually bridge that broad range as a company? It seems quite complex to be able to shift or pivot depending on the project, where everything from financing is different, the people you work with are different, levels of government would be different. How do you pivot all the time on that?
Absolutely. So we build a wide range of suites. We have anything from apartment units to duplexes, fourplex units, single family homes, and we're just actually adding to our portfolio of having premium single family homes in Regina. And so that actually allows us to expand our reach, although our focus is on helping women and children, and that will always be the most important thing to us. We also know how important it is for students that are coming to our city, from smaller communities where they're maybe coming here for schooling, or new immigrants are coming into our city, or elderly people maybe are looking to downsize. There's always a need for nice, safe, affordable homes, and we truly believe that everyone has a right to an affordable and nice, clean home in a safe area. So that is why we've kind of based our building model on being able to provide something that kind of is suitable for anyone.
You mentioned actually, equality and diversity, and I'm guessing some ethnicity, and you're juggling that as well. And how do you, can you tell me a bit more about that, as far as, especially in Canada, where so many new residents coming into Canada, and how you're working with those groups as well?
Yeah, so we always, of course, growing up in Saskatchewan, we know that Saskatchewan is one of probably the most traditional provinces. But when we entered the real estate industry and construction industry in 2014, it was very eye opening to us. We have a very strong uh, female leader, and we're very thankful for her because she has blazed trails and brought a lot of light to this situation where I think a lot of people just sit back and will kind of default to the way things have always been. You know, we don't want to do that because that's not what we've done before. So we have really faced challenges as we've built our company, and then coming to these challenges, we have realized the need to use our platform and our voice to create change and to create space at the boardroom tables for people that can represent our entire population. Right now, big decisions are being made where like at least half of our population is underrepresented, and that is just not acceptable. It's something that is actually shocking that we are dealing with still in 2021. So that is something that we really, again, take a hard stance on, is fighting for gender equality. We actually just learned last week that Saskatchewan has the highest pay gap in gender equality, and we're only one of two provinces that do not have legislation around pay equality, which again is just mind blowing. We just can't understand why. So this is something that we will fight for a long time. It's a challenge that we have been faced with, but we also view it as an opportunity for us because we do have such a strong female CEO and president and leader of our company that we're able to use our platform. We're not afraid to say what is right and stand up for what is right. And again, going back to our motto, we do what is right, not what is easy. So I think that that's where we have a great opportunity to use our voice and kind of battle these obstacles.
I was going to ask you about opportunity, and in my mind, I'm thinking more, financial opportunity or growth opportunities. But from what you're saying, opportunity, certainly where you are and where you stand with the female leadership you have, is the opportunity potentially in the industry for women leaders? Do you think if you inspire them, and certainly in the case of Saskatchewan, see legislation change, do you think that's a huge opportunity for women in the workforce and to come into the industry that you're working in?
I do, yes. And we feel strongly that Saskatchewan is maybe on the cusp of a big shift right now. We're seeing, it's sad, but we're seeing, the problems with COVID is, moms, the working moms are then defaulted to have to stay home and do the homeschooling. And it's just, again, it goes back to the way things have always been. So we're trying to work to shift the mindset of people to think more forward thinking, more progressive, and just try to work towards a more equal and inclusive society.
What's your background? How did you tell me a bit about your personal history and how you got where you are?
Yeah, so before we started Avana in 2014, I was working for the provincial government at the Young Offender programs. So this is something that is completely different, but I do feel that I have a little bit of an advantage because we were working with troubled youth in our city. It also ties to the community work that we do through our nonprofit. I understand the need for affordable housing and understand the need for critical programs and programs that will help reintegrate youth into the community. I can understand more so the effects of domestic abuse and how that affects children, and how, if we have the opportunity to support these things, that we just need to do it. More leaders need to use their voices and just do what is right and what's necessary to make the shift.
And what's interesting is the path's not linear. As you not where you are today, you would not have seen yourself potentially there several years ago. So there's not one simple route to success, and certainly in this industry, there's all sorts of ways you can come in at it.
Yeah. So I will. It's kind of a funny story how it started. Our partnership is my husband and I, his sister and her husband. So his sister Jen is our president and CEO. After she had her first child and was pregnant with her second, she realized that she needed to see a change in her career. She was a very successful financial advisor in the banking industry, and she was traveling a lot for work. So she knew that she wanted something that was more flexible and able to keep her at home in Saskatchewan with her babies and to be able to be there as her family grew up. So her and Troy, Jen and Troy, actually decided to start Avana. And then it was probably 2 months into it that they approached myself and my husband, Matt, to join them in this adventure. And my husband is actually a journeyman carpenter, and he was working for another local builder in Regina. And it was once we could kind of see the opportunities and see what kind of doors this could open for us and how we could really build a life that we loved, there was no way that we could say no to them. And throughout the past 7 years, we just haven't looked back.
7 years, what are some of the projects that you've worked on? You kind of touched on in the beginning when we talked about, the kinds of people who are moving into the projects you're working on. But can you talk a bit about some of the specific projects that really stand out in your mind that you go, we did that?
Yeah, so right now we have 314 units under management in Regina and about 190 under construction in Regina, with 96 under construction in Edmonton. I think that we have some really exciting projects coming up. And of course, we're able to leverage the national housing strategy right now, which allows us to build more affordable housing. And as we talked about earlier, the need for affordable housing throughout Canada is just insane. It's just at such a high rate that this is something that is such a big opportunity for us, and not because that we're driven by money or success that way. We deem our success by how we can have a meaningful and really good impact on our communities. So what we're looking forward to is working more with community organizations that we've built relationships with. We do have a very good relationship with the YWCA of Regina and Edmonton, as well as Sophia House in Regina, which is a second stage housing organization. But they unfortunately do not receive any provincial funding for their work. So they solely rely on grants and donations. So we've done a lot of work with Sophia House, and we're looking again to the future. I can't speak directly to which project it is, but we're going to be exploring other opportunities where we can help them evolve and get more housing into our city here, because at any given time they have at least 20 families waitlisted. And then just for further statistics, crisis shelters are operating over capacity. Right now in Canada, there's at least 6,000 women and children per night in every shelter. And every night, there's at least 300 women and children turned away. So this is what's really driving us to want to focus on women and children. And if it weren't for the affordable and safe housing in the good neighborhoods, they're forced to return to an abusive relationship. It returns to the cycle. They go through it again. The children are affected for generations and generations. And then sometimes it unfortunately leads to death. And it's something that is a very serious conversation. And we just can't understand why there isn't more support in place for women and children that are fleeing domestic violence. So we are very excited for a partnership with Sophia House and the Y. I would say that out of all the projects that we have done, that would be what we're most proud of and we're most excited for. And that's what's really, really driving us and motivating us to do more, is to see the success stories where it's literally life-changing for some people. If it weren't for the housing that we're able to create and provide to them, that they may not have access to this kind of housing ever.
Yeah, I know. It's just when the difference between, like, okay, building a building is one thing, but when you see you've transformed lives and you changed lives, I mean, that's a whole other ballgame, really, for you, I'm sure, and for the community. I mean, this is life transformational. I think that one of the challenges, you kind of touched on it, and I think it's something that, and I think I'll ask you in a different way that I might have asked, say, another company who is focused on, bottom line or other challenges with government. But I think this is, and this is not unique to Saskatchewan or Manitoba or Alberta. This is a national issue. A call to action on, what are the challenges in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? If you could say to whoever, whatever government or something, what are the challenges and how can those challenges be solved, especially when it relates to what you're focused on, which is, housing for very vulnerable people?
Yeah, we would just say that we need the provincial government to look at the statistics. And we actually have a nonprofit organization. It's called the Avana Foundation. We created that specifically to support these community organizations. Our family, we fund the program by $300,000 per year, and that allows us to supplement the rents of women and children. So we have the Avana's Empowerment Fund, which we actually work cohesively with the YWCA of Regina to house women and children that maybe don't need as critical or high level programming. Maybe they're just ready for that next step into affordable housing. And the other thing, through some of the funding that women and children are receiving, they're still not able to meet what is deemed affordable housing. So that's why we're needing to step in and again supplement the rents to make it achievable for them to have a nice home where they can continue on their healing journey and get back onto the right path that they want for their lives. Through the Avana Foundation, we have the Help Us Help Her committee. So it's a committee of about 20 women who got together a couple of years ago, and we threw a holiday party for the women and children of the community shelters in our city. There was about 400 people in attendance, and this, again, when you speak to what kind of projects that we're most proud of and excited of, this would be another thing that we honestly just cried. And watching the video that we had created after the event, it was just amazing to see the children's smiles on their faces, that maybe the gifts that they received at the holiday party were the only Christmas gifts that they were going to receive. Maybe the traditional meal that we were able to provide was the only Christmas celebration that they were going to have. And then, of course, with 2020 hitting us with the global pandemic, we're not able to gather and do the same style of holiday party. However, we did pivot, as we always do. We just make it work. And the same group of women banded together. We rallied with our community partners, the tradespeople that we work with, our business associates. We had a lot of people step up and raised a lot of money. We were able to decal one of our 22-foot trailers, and we drove around the city on a few separate days, and we delivered snowsuits, winter gear, food hampers from the food bank, as well as gifts for women and children in our community that, again, even knowing from the YWCA, they have said to us that the gifts that we dropped off were literally the only ones because of COVID. They weren't able to take as many donations as usual. So those gifts were the only ones that the women and children in their shelters were getting on Christmas morning. And it could just make me cry thinking about that right now. I have 3 young children of my own, and Jen and Troy have 4 young children. They're all 7 and under. So again, this just really resonates with us, that taking it back to our own family and our own values, and knowing how awful some of these situations are, and we just cannot imagine going through some of these things. And this is why we will just continue to support women and children in these communities, and hopefully get to a place where the government will also step in and see the importance and how underfunded, or it's not even funded, for the second stage housing, and it really needs to be.
Nicki, I just want to thank you for, it's really inspiring. I think it's more than just running a business. You know, this, what you are providing and what the message I'm hearing today on our conversation is that giving back and that being engaged, demanding change when it's needed can make a real difference. And I want to thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm George Affleck. Thanks for joining me at Constructive Conversations, Building Canada Stories, where we dig into the foundations of Canada's construction industry, learning from leaders and pioneers in the business.